Some days you almost wish you wasn't even here.
I didn't know I was going to tear up, I'm sorry.
It's just not the same and never will be the same.
It felt like something just pulling me apart in there.
We had a major outbreak.
Patients are getting infected.
It's unacceptable.
You said that she's not here.
The water supply was tainted.
This was the dirty water-borne bacteria that had affected so many patients before us.
It's hard to talk about her.
It was all I could do to keep from hollering.
I'm over here. I'm over here. It's just not the same and never will be the same.
I just don't feel like doing nothing much at all anymore.
When I see Mr. Fowler come in, it just breaks my heart.
Sometimes I have to run my fingers in my mouth and pull it out. It just gets so thick. It feels like something just pulling me apart in there. A claw or something just stretching me inside that dirt. Sometimes you don't even want to be here.
It's so bad for you some days, you wish you weren't even alive?
Absolutely. It gets awful.
To hear him talk about wanting his life to be over, it just breaks my heart.
I'm lucky to even be alive. I've just about give up hope on it. If I'd had went over with again, there ain't been no way in the world that they'd ever done no heart surgery on me and go for the rest of my life.
He is a salt of the earth kind of guy. He's been married for a long time. He's very close to his family and was in really pretty good shape, except needing this heart surgery that he had.
I'm not one to holler real loud or nothing if I can keep it, but I was almost hollering.
We had a major outbreak in South Carolina. We had 3 confirmed deaths, and then we had some that died later. All of the cases reached a resolution, which we're not allowed to talk about the specifics. There was a recognition that there had been a problem with the water supply.
Try to walk fast as I can.
Since 2015, 11 clients in several different states. Most of my clients were in South Carolina. We have represented clients in North Carolina as well, particularly Raleigh, North Carolina, Louisiana, and we represented patients in South Dakota as well.
that has been understood not to be transmitted from patient to patient. The only time it really becomes a calamity, what we might say, is when it happens in a hospital where it has a point source that is contaminated, a water source, and then a number of patients come in contact with that water source, and by eliminating that source, we stop the outbreak.
Hi, Missy. This is Dr. calling from Duke. I'm calling to check in on you guys and know that it's been a tough time. And I want to chat a little bit more about your mother.
She was like a sister. She grew like a sister to me. She was the nicest person I've ever met in my life. In charity, from how she gave of herself to everybody. She just had such good charity in her heart and goodness that you just wanted to be around her all the time. Good times with Betty Sue. She was just part of everything that we did and made our life special because of it. Really just, everybody loved her. I felt like part of my family has disappeared.
You're sad that she's not here, but yet you remember all the good things.
I got your email. I was trying to call you back and trying to give you an update on what I know and how what we've learned from your mom's case.
When you heard the news that she had passed away, how did it hit you?
I was shocked. I was like, so I lost a family member.
It's kind of hard to believe because, you know, you were apprehensive once you went into the operation. But then when she came through it, it was very uplifting. And then to hear that she had passed away was just hard to believe.
Yeah, her death was a real sort of a shocker because we thought things were going really well for her.
It's hard to talk about her. I didn't know I was going to tear up. I'm sorry. I don't know what to say.
I find part of the culprit here is the design and construction community. We just have to raise everybody's game. They're selling the design and the efficiency without thinking about the safety aspect, and that's not appropriate. It's not intentional, it's just not appropriate. It's unacceptable to have a child or my grandmother or whomever become ill and die over a waterborne pathogen that was completely preventable. I don't want a family member. Nobody wants to have a family member in that situation where we're a victim of a circumstance where with simple water management, this would have never happened. And that shouldn't happen for Legionella, that shouldn't happen for NTM, it shouldn't happen for any of these pathogens.
The Greenville Health System, which is now called Prisma, once they found out they had a problem, they seemed to be very proactive in trying to avoid having that problem again.
Kate and I would have celebrated our 46th wedding anniversary just in September. A vibrant lady to her friends, reserved to strangers, but always a smile and a pleasant hello.
There you go. I'm over here. I'm over here. Can you give me that squeeze again? There, she's tightening up. Good job, sweetheart. Good job. And I know that's exhausting.
The infection was nested in a lung. We didn't have any answers for it. We knew that we only had to treat it, and the only way to treat it was through this three-tier cocktail of antibiotics that were going to take their own toll on Kate's quality of life. She was losing her will to fight. She was forgiving of all the processes that she'd been through, but saying enough is enough. Kate was keeping up with people 10 and 15 years younger than her. We knew she was going to be a great candidate. And that all went away when we found out that the mycobacterium treatment was going to limit that recovery and the quality of life that we'd anticipated. So that hung like a sword over her head, and it was very heartbreaking to know that that probably helped her make that final decision, that unless I can be much more like the person I'd been before I was transplanted, I'm done fighting. So there were setbacks. She was tired. We were 23 months into mostly hospitalization and then a little respite at home for about 90 days before she went back. And Kate made the decision, I've had enough. Part of that was that she couldn't anticipate getting home and having the quality of life that had been the whole reason for this transplant. Had she known, and she voiced this to me as well, had I known that I would ever be subject to dialysis the rest of my life, to having limited mobility, to having constant bacterial or even pneumonia issues, I wouldn't have done it. This was the dirty water-borne bacteria that had affected so many patients before us.
Wasn't it frustrating to have that history and then this impact your wife?
I was fortunate that I got to leave and my life went on in work and supporting our home environment, and Kate, though, was able to lay in her bed at the hospital, stare at the ceiling, and ponder, how did this happen? How could it happen in an environment that's supposed to be protecting these lungs? We never know. We never will know. To have somebody that's been my 2/3 of my lifelong partner gone is a real shock to everything about our household. It's just not the same and never will be the same.
Ain't never been no good at making speeches, but if it'll help somebody, that'd be great.
Patients can get harmed. Patients are getting infected.
When you deal with very serious surgeries, introducing something into a surgical field that shouldn't be there is something that we need to strive to avoid. It seems to have been not just a national problem, but a worldwide problem. And certainly we in America have to strive better, or strive to do better than in some of the other countries around the world, because we have the ability and the wherewithal to do it.
A patient could have NTM and we wouldn't even know it because we weren't, quote unquote, looking for it. I think NTM should be reportable across the country.
I think mandatory reporting would be so helpful because information is power. And if people know that they might face this particular issue and raise awareness there, then it can be avoided.
Wouldn't you want this to be prevented for other people?
Yeah, I think that people have to know.
It is possible that infections were greater than they needed to be in the U.S. simply and solely because NTM is not a reportable infection in many states. It seems that inevitably the number of patients becoming infected with NTM will increase. And again, the concern with it is that it is very difficult to treat. Antibiotic treatment, there can be multiple antibiotics involved over an extended period of time. There can be side effects to those drugs that are untoward. So we need to be concerned about NTM. We certainly need to have it on our registries in our states so that we are monitoring it and keeping a handle on it. And then when it's identified, measures are taken to quickly eradicate it and prevent others from getting infected.
Had you ever heard of NTM?
I had not heard of NTM.
I was shocked when I saw the number.
When you are forced to be transparent, then we can do something. Then we can look at best practices.
I think it's one of those things we have to continue to watch and monitor.
We've got a problem. We've got to address that.
We need to be aware that it is there. And if need be, later on down the road, if things change, I'm sure that we will be possibly looking at the option of doing legislation. But right now, I don't see that happening. It's one of the things that we would dive in and do because we do, trust our facilities and we expect them to do the right thing for patient care.
I'm going to now ask them, can we look into this and see what's going on around the rest of the country and talk about transparency and whether or not it's good policy to go ahead and ask them to report. I think it's something that we definitely have to look at.
Part of me has got lost because I could share with her what I couldn't share with other people. She was what you'd say to a sister. If I was down, she was there with me. If I was up, she was there with me. She was just somebody you could rely on to go back and forth. And although I have lots of friends, and many of them that are very close to me, she left a definite hole.